WhiskyCast. Proudly brought to you by Redbreast, the definitive single pot still Irish whiskey. Join the Stillhouse at singlepotstill.com and receive an exclusive whiskey tasting journal.
Welcome to another episode of WhiskyCast HD. I'm Mark Gillespie, and this time around I'm in Campbell River, British Columbia, near the northern end of Canada's Vancouver Island. The climate here is very similar to Scotland in many ways. It can be chilly, cloudy, rainy. The bay is right over my shoulder out here, just past those trees. And there's something else that Campbell River has in common with a lot of Scottish towns. There's a whiskey distillery here. Shelter Point is a true farm distillery. The University of British Columbia used it for agricultural research until 2005, when Patrick Evans and his family bought the site and moved their farming operations here. A distillery wasn't part of the original plan, though. That came a couple of years later.
Economic Development Society of Comox Valley. They actually brought over a bunch of investors from Scotland that were looking at doing different distilleries or different opportunities here on the coast. And we met with a fellow named Andrew Curry. Andrew Curry, his dad, actually helped establish, or Andrew did as well, the Isle of Arran distillery. Really good guys, great guys, down to earth. And actually, it was through Andrew that we initially got the idea and the concept.
Evans traveled to Scotland for inspiration, but when it came time to build the distillery, he and Jim Marinus wanted to keep things as close to home as possible.
Well, actually, building shape itself was inspired by the rest of the buildings on the farm. The shape of the building is a traditional West Coast farm style building. As far as the design on the inside, we wanted to use local materials, have a West Coast feel. And yeah, it was just one of those things where we would kind of sit here in the morning and kind of scratch our heads, kind of what should this really look like on the inside? Because it wasn't something that was pre-planned right from the beginning. It kind of evolved as we were building it.
In the end, only the stills came from Scotland, the tanks and tons from nearby Vancouver, and some guidance from retired master distiller Mike Nicholson, who retired to the island after managing Lagavulin and 4 other Scottish distilleries for Diageo.
Mike's brilliant. His nose is fantastic. We've learned tons from Mike. And we learned traditional Scotch whiskey styles of making single malt. And that's brilliant. Love it. But for us, we want to kind of evolve and make sure we make a Canadian single malt. And so that allows us to play with it a bit, tweak it a bit. We're on the farm here. We love the idea of growing our own product, growing our own cereals here. So we walked down that road this year. We actually, 50% of our product, we actually came from the farm here, right on the farm. I planted it, I combined it, James distilled it. It's coming very nicely.
While Evans and Marinus have been laying down casks for almost 2 years, the tweaking continues. Samples of their initial casks are promising, but they still see room for improvement.
Yeah, it's fun to experiment. It really is. Try different things. It's neat to see how it mixes up a little bit. I think basically we've got a general recipe we're going to stick to.
If you talk about what makes a great whiskey, you talk to the cooperage guys and it's all about the barrel. You talk about the master distiller, well, it's all about the stilling and the cuts. You talk about the farmer and it's all about the dirt, So for us, we got to have a balanced soil, to have the balanced plant, to have the balanced cereal, and then all those other components, very important too. It's like a tapestry. Every little piece matters, and we just got to make sure that all parts, the soil's balanced, the cuts are good, and the barrels are good, and then we have a complete package that hopefully will be great.
Evans and Marinus aren't above stopping production when there's work to be done on the farm. In fact, the distillery only runs at about half its capacity right now. There's plenty of room to expand, and with its unique design, right down to an indoor waterfall, Shelter Point has become popular with a group even more demanding than whiskey connoisseurs, brides.
Maybe in 5 years' time, we like to wrap that up. And, dealing with folks in the peak of their little moment, the Western Charge ladies that are really focused on their weddings. It's great. Appreciate the work. But we really want to become the whiskey distillery first and foremost. You can imagine dairy operations, agriculture. Wintertime, kind of gloomy and cold and gumboots, and now I dress up, we go to work, we come home clean, my wife is happy, my clothes don't smell. It's a good time.
Shelter Point's whiskeys are still a couple of years away from being ready for the market, but there are long-term plans for expansion already. They may wind up building their own malting facility here on the farm, not only to supply Shelter Point's own needs, but to supply other Vancouver Island distilleries and the island's many microbreweries as well. For more cask-strength conversation on whiskeys, with the people who make them and the people who drink them, join us each week for WhiskyCast. In Campbell River, British Columbia, I'm Mark Gillespie.